Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 6 is time set aside for letters, petitions, or any public comments for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. Mr. Jones?
I have none, Mayor.
Mrs. Keller?
I have none.
You're not on it yet, are you? Mr. Rohr?
I have none, thank you. Nothing to report.
Okay, we'll keep going. Item 8 is consideration of a new liquor permit. Elaine, going to read this into the record?
Item A, Aldi Inc., Ohio, doing business as Aldi's, 973 Sunbury Road, Delaware, Ohio, 43015, permit classes C1 and C2.
Chief?
Madam Mayor, members of council, for consideration is a liquor permit request by Aldi's. You previously heard this request on the April 10th agenda. They asked for a new permit. They've canceled that request and have asked for a new permit that evidently became available. This is what, I think, Sean, is that correct?
Yeah, to give you a little context, what we understand they're doing is they're Trexing out their existing permit to another Aldi's. So then they want a new permit for this location. So they're kind of Trexing themselves, which is weird. But so we'll lose a permit, but we can't do anything to stop that.
It's something you see a lot with chain franchise businesses. They'll ship permits to other communities.
And you actually did approve this very same application, but for some reason they stopped it and started all over again. So that was still the same process, but I don't think we needed to do another background check, right, Chief?
There's nothing that's changed, so we have no reason to request a hearing to object, would be our recommendation.
Top for recommendation?
I move that we accept the permit without objection.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mrs. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. And item 9 is discussion of designated outdoor refreshment area, other known as DORA.
Yeah. Darren, do you want to provide the background on that, please?
In previous meetings, council has inquired about the city taking part in DORA, which is designated outdoor refreshment areas. Prior to this year, in April, we were ineligible to do that because of our population size, but now, due to the phasing in, we are eligible. However, in crafting potential legislation, the package that actually Tom has to submit to council, there's some threshold questions that we're kind of looking for input from council to help us narrow down what we want to write in our application and then present to council. So I don't know if we want to walk through the questions, but I'll just list them briefly. First is, what is the intended purpose that council is looking to achieve with the DORA? We looked at some samples. Middletown's done it, and was it Worthington or Dublin, Tom? Worthington. And there's a couple different ways we can go, but primarily the question is council is intending to permit people just to walk around downtown with kind of an open beverage at all times, or are we really concerned about having that availability for special events like either First Fridays or Ironman or whatever might be happening? So that'll derive how we write the documents. Following from that, two of the components of a DORA application under the statute is you have to have a public safety plan and a sanitation plan. So depending on how you answered question number 1, it could have follow-up question, which is, do we want to incur the cost? Are we willing to incur monetary costs for number 2? So I'll explain a little more clearly. If council wants to have sort of an open alcohol at all time, walking around downtown, I think it's called sip and carry, there will likely be a little bit more planning and costs that we have to incur for the sanitation plan because there'll be more cups and things thrown away. We don't want them all over the streets. And possibly a public safety plan as well. The concerns could be, how do you prohibit underage drinking? How do you prohibit people from bringing their own alcohol? And that could incur some additional safety forces allocation. In contrast, if you were to say we're just really concerned about special events, those are the kind of questions that go through our special events process already. We know they're coming. We have additional resources to do the sanitation plan. Public safety is always part of those special events meetings, and they kind of handle how they're going to make sure everything's safe there. So that might be able to be easier taken care of because it's just focusing on those events that we already have procedures in place. And then the third question, which may be the most easy, is what area did council wish to have included in the outdoor refreshment area? One approach would be downtown Sandusky and then, one block cross streets going down the core downtown, but presumably there could be other configurations and things that council is trying to achieve. So before we can draw that map, we were looking for some input as to what council had in mind when they were thinking about this. So I just spat a lot out at you, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about my questions. Oh, one thing I will throw out there. The way that DORA works is it applies to liquor permit holders in the district. And so they get a special little thing that says they can give alcohol. So one thing that the DORA could not accomplish is you want to have a special festival and you want to bring in beer trucks or some other kind of outside vendor because this is like a celebration outside. They wouldn't have that special liquor permit, so this wouldn't help them. So if that's what you're trying to achieve, that this DORA is not the tool to make that happen. So when you get the DORA, the liquor permit holders get a special DORA permit. So if you were going to have a festival downtown and you weren't going to rely on the existing alcohol licensees in that area, but you wanted to bring in a caterer or a Budweiser or beer trucks or something, they would have their own special events traveling permit, but that wouldn't fall into the DORA. So you wouldn't get the benefits of them being able to just hand out alcohol on the, well, I don't know if there's benefits, but them being able to have alcohol and having people walking around the street with them.
So it would still have to be fenced in as well, fencing in is our rule.
It would presumably still follow all the other rules that we have. It wouldn't have the outdoor refreshment area benefits.
And apparently Middletown has brought that to the attention to their legislator because they feel it's unintended negative aspect of it, of the legislation.
That's just the way
That's
it
what I
mechanically works. Yeah, just because the people who have permits get the special DORA thing.
So 2 weeks ago, when the New Moon race went on, they brought their own beer truck in. So if they had not brought that beer truck in, people could, if we had a door in place, they could simply go in and get a beer from one of our places downtown and bring it out into the street to listen to the band.
Yes.
If you designate.
If it was a DORA.
Special event.
Right.
Yeah.
If we had
Yeah,
a,
the special event,
So there'll be no need to bring in big Budweiser truck.
you presumably might not have to. So, I would be interested to see if the downtown businesses would like that business, but I assume at least some of them would because there'd be people coming in there buying beer.
right.
But the truck would not be covered, but all the other businesses would be. So, and I think one of the cities, Worthington is talking about doing a special cup. So it's from a licensed place as opposed to me coming in with a beer can and pouring it in a plastic cup. So that special cup could come from the district and there's potentially a cost to that, but that would be a way to know that those are coming from the licensed people.
So is this beer and wine only? Is this beer, wine, and liquor?
I believe it's beer and wine only.
I think
isn't
it's
it?
beer and wine.
Okay.
It's a certain kind of permits. It's like, and I don't know what they all are, but I can look them up, but I think it's all the different beer and wine kinds.
Just beers and wine, okay.
Can anybody in the designated area, whatever we say it would be, who has a liquor license get a DORA?
When we apply,
So many a city can.
no, everyone, we have to have at least 4, otherwise you can't have a DORA. And it's basically everyone who has one of those permits, including the district in our application, would say, here are the existing permit holders who would qualify. We list them out. So yeah, they could all have that.
So business does not have to participate.
Correct.
No, I mean, that's correct, yes.
In those businesses, then you brand the cups because you have to know where the cups came from. There's a administrative process that you have to put in place to make this work.
So does it cost a business to be part of the DORA?
I don't think so, except I don't know how you do the cups, but I don't think there's a fee for them applying.
I'm not sure, but I know that we have an official from the city of Worthington here for our next presentation, and he may know the
We'll grill
answers to
him.
some of these questions.
Run now.
It's actually, you may know right now.
Could you come forward to the microphone and give us your name and address? Maybe you can answer some questions for us, and then we'll start on the other.
I looked at the agenda and I was like, I'm in trouble. I'm David McWorkle. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the City of Worthington. We did just put a DORA in place. We passed the resolution last week, actually. It's been about a 3-month process. Our DORA specifically was to help with 2 things. outdoor dining, so enhancing outdoor dining, and to enhance special events. So we do not have a sip and stroll around the clock. We only have, we passed a separate ordinance that requires our qualified permit holders to stay within a signed area for outdoor dining. Downtown Worthington, if you're familiar with downtown Worthington, we're very close to High Street. There's not a whole lot of opportunity for outdoor dining. You can only get a couple tables out in front of some of the establishments without spilling into the public right-of-way. So what we did was we passed the DORA to allow outdoor dining to spill out into the public right-of-way on a daily basis. And then we have about 4 or 5 special events throughout the year where it does become a sip and stroll district. Ours is only 4 acres in size. The application was submitted from our Old Worthington Partnership. It's our downtown organization, our Heritage Main Street organization. They submitted the application to our city manager, Matt Greason. Matt Greason submitted the application then in turn to our city council. There was quite a bit of public input on both sides of the aisle, but our merchants were overwhelmingly in support of it. We do have 8 merchants that are part of our downtown designated outdoor refreshment area, and our first event is here in about 3 weeks. So we'll see how it goes. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So what can you tell me about these cups?
Sure. So the only statutory requirement is that it's a plastic receptacle, so you can make the cups look like whatever you want. The statute does not actually state that you have to have the business name on it, but our police chief was very clear that he wanted to know where the drink came from. So what we've required is we've created 8 different labels as stickers. So we have a template for a plastic cup. We do have different sizes because some are for wine, some are for cocktails, some are for beer. But the sticker is a different color for each merchant. So the police chief and his staff have a color code, a key, if you will, so that they understand where the drinks are coming from. The statute does say, similar to liquor laws, if you do receive a drink from one establishment and it is during a special event, so a sip and stroll, you are able to walk around, but before you enter that premise, the additional establishment, you need to finish your drink or empty it. So drinks cannot go from establishment to establishment.
So I can't take my cup into another
That's correct.
place and get, okay.
That's correct.
Did it change your liability for the city?
The law director has said that it did not change the liability for the city. It's nothing more. She equated it to nothing more than over-serving an individual. She said it did not change the liability. We're excited to see how it goes. We have the Picnic with the Partnership, which is our downtown Main Street organization. They will shut down downtown Worthington between at the corner of 161 and US 23. It's about a 4-block radius. We do have, you do have to identify the number of signs, the spacing of the signs, the sanitation plan, the safety plan. We wound up creating about 17 signs. We put them on movable stanchions, so the merchants can bring them in at night. We're actually doubling those, so they will serve 2 purposes. They'll help the merchants. The merchants will purchase them, and we'll use them for outdoor dining. And then during special events, the boundaries will be re-signed to the outside parameters of the DORA.
Are you allowing liquor?
What?
Are you allowing liquor?
Yes, we are.
And I read there was some concern about family.
Yes.
Friendly.
So we had, we were about 99% of the way there, I'd say 2 months ago. The one lingering issue was our farmers market. We have every Saturday morning from 8 a.m. to noon, we have 50 weeks a year. We have a very prominent farmers market, a very strong farmers market. The community spoke loud and clear that they did not want the farmers market. We actually had a motion passed by City Council 5-2 in favor of the farmers market and its inclusion. About 2 weeks went by and we had a couple of switches, and it actually went down. So the farmers market has since been removed from the resolution, as one of the eligible events. What was going to happen?
Again, the time of your farmer's market, isn't it in the morning?
8 a.m. to noon.
Okay, just.
The Bloody Marys,
Clarify.
Bloody Marys and mimosas were very important to some folks. But it has since been removed. It's out. It's out.
So do you ever see you becoming, rather than just special events, doing it, Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
We could potentially get there. We did a lot of research when we were looking into this. Middletown was referenced. There were 4 or 5 communities that had already passed this that were larger than 35,000. It was effective a couple years ago for communities larger. The common theme that we found was their downtowns were very much struggling. They had a lot of vacancy, a lot of turnover, and it was a way to drive traffic to the downtown. We did not have that same need. We actually only had a couple of vacancies. So what we wanted to do is we just wanted to enhance what we thought was already fairly successful, add a little bit of vibrancy to the downtown. I could see it changing, but we're a fairly conservative community, and I think the way we're doing it right now is a good way of doing it. We also put in a 1-year back period, so we're going to look back after 1 year, provide some metrics. So have the merchants downtown seen a rise in sales? Have there been an increase in police incidents, that type of thing? And then we'll reevaluate after 1 year.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
So we still have to apply to.
Well, we need to tell staff what we want them to do.
Yeah, so to rephrase the process, it's kind of weird. The city manager has to apply to council. And then his application has to have all those elements, the sanitation plan, the safety plan, signage. Council then has to have public hearings and mandatory waiting periods, and then you vote on it. But if you vote to approve it, that point is pretty much good. I mean, the state doesn't do a lot more to it after that.
But when the city manager makes application, does it have to be application as a sip and stroll, or we have to know that all ahead?
I think that's what the application would say.
In Worthington, the city manager got direction from the city council
Okay.
in advance, like we're doing tonight, starting a conversation with you to find out, do you want it to be limited to special events? What are the areas? Do you want us to do some more research
Is the
in it?
application process year-round? Or is
Yeah,
it-
it's anytime.
Okay.
It's anytime. So,
this isn't something-
yeah. It-
I'm just, for me speaking out loud, and I think I'm far from a teetotaler, but I'm all in favor of special events, maybe even if it's a Friday, Saturday type thing, limited hours. I don't think I can get behind a sip and stroll. I'm not there yet. And I think the difference that comes out of my head, it's different than Worthington, is we're still a college town. And we still got, we got major university just down the street. I was 21 once as well. So.
I tend to agree. I think we at least start off with it as a special event kind of thing. And then we see how that, I think the 1 year look back period is a great idea. See how that goes.
I'm making, family friendly things that pops out in my head. The litter pops out. In fact, we have a college town, the campus is so close, just, it's a Friday night bar crawl up and down the streets all, but.
I think when we do the sanitary, we want to make sure that recycling, because if these are plastic cups,
Right.
they need to be recycled, period. So do we consider First Friday a special event?
See, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
and I would say not.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I think First Friday is more, when you look at the number of young people that are downtown for First Fridays, I don't think that's a good mix. Personally, now, when I'm talking special events, I'm talking the car show, I'm talking the half marathon, the arts festival, some of those things, but I just don't.
But then I think you go to Disney World, you go to the zoo, you go to Cedar Point, you take your family, and if you want a beer, you can have a beer. I don't look for parents to get drunk in front of their children. I think it's a whole different process, so.
It could be, but I kind of go back to the whole, it's a college town. If we didn't have issues with people handling their liquor, we wouldn't have issues with Olivina down there and their alcove with people puking and urinating in their alcove and different things like that. I mean, it is a college town. Young people get drunk, they get stupid. And I know if I still had school kids, I don't want my kids around there. Yeah, you can use it as a teaching moment, but I'd rather not teach them in a public display like that, you know, for something like that.
I hear what you're saying. The one thing that I keep coming back to is public intoxication is against the law. So it's not like if we're allowing people to walk around with a beer, we're allowing public intoxication. That's still a crime. So if I'm walking with a beer and I'm acting like a fool because I've had 10, that's a crime whether I'm in the backstretch or whether I'm on the street. But if I'm on the street, it's actually easier, I would think, for the police to deal with it, especially with the kids, than if it's hidden back behind a door somewhere. So the illegal behavior is still the illegal behavior.
I'll just point out that it's technically not illegal to be intoxicated in public. It's illegal to cause inconvenience, annoyance, or alarm to someone while you're intoxicated. So if you're a really good intoxicated person, you'll be fine. But it does create an interesting conflict of purposes, especially when you're at a special event downtown.
So I just need to behave myself.
Correct.
Or not have 10 beers.
I agree with Caroline. There's all kind of places that you can go where there's lots of kids around and people are expected to drink responsibly. I mean, to me, to eliminate First Fridays, which is a regular special event that we have down here and people love to come out for it, I think that's counterproductive to doing the door. Yeah, again, I think we're relying on the police to kind of give us some feedback. If it starts to be a problem, then I think we certainly can make adjustments to that.
I guess the following, the first question I had written down here when I was making notes this morning is, what problem are we trying to solve with this door? What's the problem? I've never had anybody say, oh golly, it's a real problem that I can't take my alcohol out into the street.
I don't think we're trying to solve the problem. I think we're trying to make our downtown entertainment district even better. So in nice weather, people can walk around like they do other places and, you know, get a beer at one place and walk around the cars or look at the displays and whatever. Have the opportunity to mosey up and down the street like we see them doing now and take a risk.
I can give you, for instance, on a First Friday, if we block off those 2 blocks and you've had dinner at Opa's, or the backstretch, or Mado's, and you want to walk up there to see what ell's going on, you have to sit there and finish your drink. It'd be nice to just be able to take your drink with you.
I mean,
It's just a thought.
I just don't see that as being an issue, like, oh golly, I have to sit here for 5 minutes to take these last couple swallows of beer. I just don't see that. I guess I'm not that ingrained in my alcohol. It's like, I can drink it and then go do what I want to do. But yeah.
I think like the mayor said, it like Disney World at Cedar Point enhances the district. I think that's really what it does.
And I think it may attract people to come to Delaware that may not come here otherwise, because that's to people who like to enjoy a beer, that would be an attractive thing. I would think, for people to come and make an evening out of it and walk around and see the cars and enjoy what Main Street puts on for First Friday events and things.
So are you seeing that from a sip and stroll approval, or are you seeing it from just general for special events?
I think for special events for sure. I'm kind of on the fence personally for the just sip and stroll in general. Maybe just see how the special events go. I'd be willing
I
to.
think we need to do baby steps.
That's a good
Baby
starting
steps.
point. I think we could pretty much declare whatever we want at special events. So if something new comes to town that we haven't planned on, we can say, okay, this is a special event. And we're going to apply the doors, we put the signs up. And
I'd like to hear too before, I mean, we're just speaking in big generalities here, but before we were to move forward, I'd like to hear from some of the downtown business owners and hear how they feel like it would impact their business. And I would like to see people purchasing alcohol from our businesses rather than bringing in outside trucks and things like that. I think that would enhance our businesses.
And George, when I think about a First Friday, you can't walk downtown without every single patio being full.
Sure.
And they don't move. When you mark your spot in that patio and you're there for the duration. I mean, that happens at Restoration, at Stas's, at all of them. So this would give people a different option.
That's true. It increases your capacity.
Darren, do we have to name specific events in advance, or do we name them as we go?
Well, this is all pretty new to me, but I know in the Worthington app, they did name all the events in advance. But with that said,
You can add.
we
to
can
it.
add, I would recommend we list the ones we think, and then if something new comes up, we can have council vote to add it to the list. So, yeah, give it permission, but I would do something to kind of make it more official than just penciling it into special events committee, but I think we could make it happen. That's with a caveat that I'm learning as I go, so.
So let me hear from you guys, Council up here. What do you anticipate? I mean, 3 blocks of Sandusky, and then Winter, both ways, to Union to Franklin?
Absolutely. Yeah,
And then what about the block like where 12 West is?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, I would say basically between Franklin and Union, between Spring and Central.
Right. And then coming down to.
What are the boundaries of the historic downtown?
Pretty much,
Is that the,
it's not exactly, but
Close to the core
okay.
district of downtown.
Absolutely.
Norwood Park, that includes the college.
Right.
And I think that pretty much includes most of that.
Yeah, I think that would cover everybody.
yeah.
I'm
Spring.
sorry, could you repeat that? I think it was Franklin to Union, and what was the other across the?
Spring to Central.
Okay, just taking notes, sorry. That's- Dave, is there any downside if we were to map to that historical district? Is there any part of that we wouldn't want to include? Because it's already an existing district, there might be some ease to that.
I don't know, we can take a look at that. I think that's the boundaries they're describing are pretty close to our facade renovation program, less the expansion maybe to the east side that we're working on and into the core district of the downtown. So I think we put it on a map and let them see it.
Okay.
That might help.
If we say to Union, does that include Union? There's Ribs Bar over there. That's the only reason I'm throwing that out there. Does that include him?
I would think we want to.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure.
I would,
Because I don't want to say to and then him not be
I
able
would
to.
assume if it says Union, it would include the Union.
Okay,
It's like it says Sandusky.
It would be Union from Williams.
He's on that side of the street, which the line would.
right, just making sure. Just trying to think of everybody out there.
I think if we make a map for you, maybe put it out as an addendum to Darren's questions, then you can kind of see it visually and make adjustments like that.
So we'll
as you're
see
telling
what
them.
this again before that.
Yeah, I would-
Okay.
What I think
We
what
could.
I would do is just put together kind of an outline of what an application would look like, including what a sanitation plan might look like, what the public safety plan might look like, what, if there are any implications of that, the area itself, and then provide that to you, get your feedback, and if that looked like that was satisfactory, and suggest the events that we would be looking at. If that was satisfactory, if there any changes, and that, following that would be a formal application, and then that starts the clock ticking for the formal public hearing, where you have to hear from the
Merchants,
merchants.
so the 2017 summer is gone.
Yeah,
I mean, because Mr. McCorkle said it took 3 months.
Even with even if we gave you something tonight with the waiting periods, you're missing most of the summer anyway.
and it just,
Car show's not to the end of August.
So you're saying there's a chance?
but it's going
Yeah,
forward.
let's just, I mean, you just don't have to wait 2 weeks for you to give us the information.
No, we can provide that back, but it's a process, and you want to hear from the public and we get the plans from, Bill Farino is probably going to want to have some input on the sanitation piece. If there's an expectation that we increase the amount of recycling containers we have downtown, or we want to do that, then there's a cost to that.
Can you email us a copy again of the historic district, just as a reference?
Yes, the overlay,
Tomorrow or
yes,
something? Yeah,
yep.
so we can-
Yep.
And
that's what we can start with that.
I'll save it for until I see it.
But I think back to, George, your question, I think it's, again, I don't think there's as much of a problem here as there is looking to enhance what's already happening in the downtown. And it's an enhancement, it's an added, I guess, part of the downtown experience. And I do think we need to talk about this issue of the beer, if not having let's say we have a special event, they bring in a beer vendor, not having them bring that in, and having all of the bars and whatnot. I think we need to hear from our restaurants about that. Because what you don't want to do is have a special event, not have that option, and then not have they're not able to get into the bars to get, I don't know. I think you want to have both options. But.
Well, I know in some special events, the beer sale, the proceeds from the beer sales helps fundraising. So I know when they do not Jeff's Jam, they did one for Women's City Club, all the proceeds went to the Women's City Club. So we got to think about that, then maybe,
Well, and the one thing just to clarify, I think, is this DORA would not prohibit them from doing that,
Right.
but it doesn't have any of the advantages for them of the DORA. We would still fence that area in where they can have it, just like we do now. So I think if they said, hey, we want to have the Clydesdales with the beer truck behind it or something, they could do that, it just wouldn't be DORA, it would be its own
you say
separate thing.
drink
But
within that.
everybody else is still door, right? So you can still go to restoration and get a beer and walk around or whatever.
Yeah, I would
You
say
couldn't
so.
do it from the event area.
Yeah, because Madam Mayor, you're pretty familiar with Jeff's Jam. I think they don't walk up the whole downtown. They have like an area.
Yeah, just an area.
So they would still
So
have
if you
that
have a Dora
area.
Cup, can you come into that fenced-in area and
No, because
I would
that'd
think
be
not.
like
That's-
going into another liquor
Yeah, I
establishment.
think you wouldn't be able to bring
That's
yours
what I
in.
Okay, we have, any other comments from us? We
This has been
have
helpful, thank you.
some folks here that have businesses that this would affect. Does anybody have any comments that they'd like to come forward on this or talk, or are you just here to listen? Okay, if you'll come forward to the microphone and give us your name and address for the record, please.
The name's Todd Dockenbaugh, 422 Oslo Court, Delaware. Also the owner of Fresh Start Cafe and Bakery at 24 North Sandusky. I guess this is the first time I've heard of this, so I just heard about it today, so I thought I'd come and hear what the initial conversation is. So I would caution you to proceed slowly with this because you're talking about enhancing the downtown. I think you're going to change the downtown. As an individual who has a past with alcohol problems, and I think our society has gotten to the point where you can't have fun without a beer in your hand. We have different issues. If you can't go to a car show and walk around, you have to have a beer. I think we need I don't know, I just don't understand that concept, but anyway, I digress. My concern is it's not going to create a family-friendly atmosphere. I would not want to take my children into what becomes a bigger bar, because really what you're allowing everybody to do is just become a larger patio, is what it sounds like to me. And that's not something I'd want to bring my family to as a family event, and I don't participate in those, going out to the bars anymore. So, and I'm also concerned as a business owner, do I have the option to not allow alcohol in my establishment? And because I'm not an alcohol establishment, do they allowed to bring in open containers? And I certainly will check, but I would not be surprised if that was going to have an impact on my liability. If there's a slip and fall or something like that, how do I address that with my business liability, or how do I keep people from coming in and tearing up my restrooms or whatever, and my family atmosphere? And then my last comment, again, just hearing this first time, the cups I don't understand. It seems pretty obvious people are going to be able to keep those cups or figure out how to get those cups and put their own drinks and things in them, unless you change them every event or something like that. You just keep them. I don't understand. So, and I'd like to know what the cost is as a taxpayer for, is that going to additional cost go to the liquor license holders, or do I have to pay for that cleanup and all that stuff? So just a kind of a laundry list of comments, but things to consider and move slow, because I'll stop where I started. I'm concerned we're going to change Delaware and not enhance Delaware. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Andy Coach, 18 South Sandusky, Delaware, Ohio, and I'm the owner of Opa Grill and Tavern. At this point, I do have a D5. I understand that the people have concerns about liquor or alcohol, which I don't know if you can have control over somebody going to Kroger, filling their truck with Bud Light or Budweiser and coming to the car show, keeping it on their car and drinking all day long. Giving us a choice and giving us an option to make a better downtown, we really need it now, because with all those restaurants, with all those buildings coming to across my home, they have better parking, they have anything else in there, they have bigger patios, they don't have to deal with with city ordinance in there because they have their own property. They can put bigger patios. So we're going to lose business in here big time in a year or 2 years. We really need to work on this. You go to zoo, which is mostly done for kids, and I see everybody having a beer. The difference in there is that the Bud Light is $10. So this is happening. You don't have to let people come to your establishment with outside cups, which is illegal. You cannot go to a different, I cannot take a beer from my restaurant and walk next door to Backstretch and drink it in there. That's illegal. So it's still going to be illegal. If people have issues with alcohol, they have issues with alcohol. With us passing this or with us not passing this, you still can go at a gas station next door and buy 2 cases of beer and you're still going to walk downtown. Like, this license is not going to prevent people from drinking. It's not going to add people from drinking. It's just people want to drink, people drink. People don't want to drink, and people don't want to drink. This is not that it's going to push more on drunk people. Whoever is going to get drunk, they're going to get drunk regardless. But I'm very worried about 2 years from now or a year from now when the Coughlin crossing opens, they're going to have huge patios in there. And we're going to lose business big time because people are already complaining for parking, and this will be the only thing that we can compete with those people around. Dublin has one. Worthington has one. Those people are just already leaving because we are not able to accommodate them. As you guys said before, if somebody gets a patio, they don't leave us. We lose business from patios because somebody sits in there for 2 hours having a beer or 2 beers, and we cannot tell them, hey, you need to go, and somebody else come and this it. So I really think that this is going to help us out. I understand there will be issues with sanitation. We already have issues with sanitation because a lot of our fellow business owners in here, they put a paper on their door that you cannot use the restroom. It's only for patrons only, which is not nice. On big events like car shows, or on big events like farmers market, on big events like we do around in here, there is no restrooms. We don't have restrooms. So I can put a recycling bin at OPA, and every other business can put one, so everybody can drop those caps on our containers. So I understand there will be a cost in there, but it will be more a tax generated out of the sales. I strongly believe that this is a good thing for Delaware. Thank you.
Anyone else have a comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll look forward from the information from you and we'll move forward on that. Okay?
Yes, thank you. This has been very helpful. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Item 9. Oops, where did 9? Item 10. Presentation by David McCorkle. Yeah, Sean's going to lead us off. Yeah, I don't know what's that. Where'd the other chair go?
Sean, just grab Jackie's chair. It's probably easier to grab Jackie's chair.
Well,
unlucky nose. Got that right.
Good evening.
Thank you for waiting. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I appreciate you taking your time to hear about this project this evening. As an introduction, before I let Mr. McCorkle speak, we've recently begun working with a business owner who's wanting to establish co-working offices in our downtown in one of our pivotal historic buildings in our downtown area. This is a building that's been vacant for, well, actually over 4 years now and is in need of tremendous renovation. The project is entirely in line, with our recent citizen survey, which said 65% of residents said the economic development should be our priority, especially with an emphasis in bringing high-paying white-collar jobs to Delaware. The creation of office spaces for these white-collar jobs is a priority of our economic development plan as well. Recently, this has become even more important due to our lack of vacant high-quality office space throughout Delaware, let alone in our downtown area. Many tech, creative class, association, and business service companies have approached us for downtown office space in the last couple of years due to the attractive, walkable culture we have built downtown, some of which you've just heard about in our conversation about the Dora, right? However, most have had to go elsewhere because of our lack of inventory of already renovated office spaces and the cost of actually, and the cost and time associated with renovating that office space if they chose to move forward. The company we're working with for renovating and creating high quality downtown office space is seeking our assistance through means of tax abatements or on renovations and grant assistance for renovations. This type of project would be similar in nature to one of our industrial projects in terms of providing tax abatements and grants for high quality jobs. The competition for white collar jobs is not any different than for industrial jobs, and therefore we must consider incentivizing them in the same way, utilizing our formulaic approach to creating incentive packages that are investments with high ROI for the community. Incentivizing this project would be a public and private partnership that allows us to invest in a problem building in our downtown while also creating opportunities for our current commuting white collar workforce. Those that are self-employed and second and third stage startup companies, it would encourage them to stay and grow in Delaware while contributing to our community in a much greater way than if they worked elsewhere. With respect to co-working office spaces, this is really an office trend that flexibly addresses the way people work today and into the future. A recent national survey that was conducted said 1/3 of U.S. workers consider themselves to be freelancers. That's a huge number. 41% say they expect to be independent contractors in the next year. 53% expect to be self-employed in the next 5 years. So this is a trend that continues to grow and is not disappearing or going away. It will continue to change the way people work in an office atmosphere. Co-working also is a cost-effective alternative for small businesses to be able to afford high-quality office space on a smaller budget. Larger businesses also want co-working space as well because it allows satellite offices and access to pockets of employees in various locations for recruitment purposes. It exposes large companies to smaller and more nimble companies, allowing them to continue to be progressive and flexible. It also allows for working in co-working spaces. That allows for innovation and stimulation for their employees to be putting them in this environment. An example of a very successful national co-working space chain is a company called WeWork, which was recently valued at $10 billion. So it shows that this model has a lot of success across the nation. The company we work with happens to be really more or less of a startup with their startup happening in Worthington. Joining me is David McCorkle, a longtime friend of mine, member of the Ohio Economic Development Association Board of Directors, the City of Worthington's Economic Development Director. He's here to share his experiences and successes in working with the project owner that we're currently working with. With that, I introduce Mr. McCorkle.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sean. Mayor Riggle, members of council. Sean spoke on the impact of co-working as a whole. I wanted to talk about Cohatch a little bit and what we've seen in Worthington. Just a couple of bullet points, and then you guys can ask me questions. So Cohatch has two existing, let me say 1.5. They have one existing location in Worthington that's up and running. They are constructing a second one that will be open in the next 2 months. And we are in discussions about a third co-working location in Worthington. Their existing location has 150 users. That's in 7 months of operation. So it's a unique blend of users. We've seen everything from title agents to startup companies to attorneys that work 2 blocks away that just want to go somewhere else to work for a few hours a day, a few hours a week. It's a membership-based organization, so their packages range from $50 a month to a community membership, which just allows you to use their event space on nights and weekends, all the way up to a shared office that seats 5 to 6 individuals. That's $1,800 a month. It's a wide range. Cohatch themselves, they're pretty philanthropic in their efforts. They have what they refer to as a boost room. So they have a room located within their facility that is dedicated to doing nothing else but advancing a company, either a social entrepreneur or a community organization, to the next level. They give that space to the organization for free for a year, and they require that organization to interview all of the other businesses co-located in Cohatch for guidance. So that's web development, that's financing, whatever it is. And that's the beauty of co-working, is you have a wide range of expertise all under the same roof, shared amenities, but there's shared resources as well. We've actually seen them. They've been an extension of our farmers market as well. They've created an artisan program in their Cohatch space that is, they call it the Matery, and it's a play on, it's a pun on making things. It's a maker space. And it's been a really nice extension of the co-working space. So that's the existing space. Our main project, though, that we've worked with Cohatch on is in our James Kilbourne Memorial Library building at the corner of 161 and High Street. This is approximately 5,000 square feet. It's 2,500 square feet upstairs and 2,500 square feet of what we believe to be unusable space in the basement. Cohatch is currently constructing that space. They expect to open in the next 2 months. They are 90% booked for that space as well. That's 12 full offices and a 3,000 square foot maker space in the basement. The maker space, if you're unfamiliar with a maker space, it's just a place where people go to share resources, to make whatever it is that the community cares about. That could be anything from, pun on the door, beer making to 3D printers, to throwing clay. It can be anything that the community wants to see. Ours will be heavy on probably food. So we have a company that's actually grown out of Cohatch called Portion. They're similar to the online ordering food where the home delivery service. Yeah, Blue Apron. Thank you. They started at the commissary in Columbus, and they've grown out of that space. They're tired of renting space at the commissary. So they are up to 8 employees. They started at 2. That's nothing but net growth for us. So while co-working is very difficult, we found, I'm not going to lie, it's very difficult to capture what your true ROI is to begin with, what your return on investment is from an income tax revenue generation perspective. 3/4 of Worthington's budget is income tax revenue generation. That's how we pay the bills. It's very difficult to say this is all we're getting in return. Now I can tell you we have a couple of companies that didn't exist before that are growing and asking me about moving into industrial space that we have in a different part of the community. I think that's very valuable. But as far as the makeup of their membership, it's very difficult right now to tell what percentage of those employees are net new to us. Were they coming from the community? We were already getting their income tax dollars. They were just working from home. Now they're working at Cohatch. So it's been a learning curve. We're working with Cohatch, and they've been very receptive. We're looking forward to future projects with them as well. The way that we established the Kilbourne building project, because it is a city-owned building, we actually abated their rent in exchange for the renovations. So they're putting $700,000 of renovations into a city-owned building that had sat vacant for 10 years in exchange for us abating the rent. It allowed us to mitigate our risk. We don't have a lot of cash in the deal. The more successful they are, the more successful the building is. It's a 10-year lease with 2 5-year options. But we're already really excited about it, considering they're booked up already and don't open for 2 months. The other thing that we did support that building with a $100,000 grant over 10 years. So it's a $10,000 a year. It was a little front loaded to provide them the capital for the renovations, but in exchange for that, they were required to do 5 things. They have a public patio component. So since it's still a city-owned building, we want, on our village green, it was very important to us that the community still have access to it. They provided meeting passes, so city meeting passes, so you could use their cool hipster space free of charge. They are required to provide quarterly income tax information. So per the statute, the Ohio Revised Code, if you work in Ohio X number of days a year in a certain municipality, you're required to pay income tax in that community. We are doing our best to try and capture those individuals. They're going to provide rosters. It is probably a little more work for our finance department to make sure that those individuals are paying income tax. But that's something that we cared about seeing. Monthly programming. So they are partnering with the library to provide programming to our community. So on a monthly basis, whether it be how to do your taxes or how to make that beer or whatever it is in their makerspace, they are required to do that. And then finally, they are required to give us a quarterly narrative on the businesses in themselves. And I think this is the most important part. I'm a one-man shop in Worthington. Cohatch has a pulse of the businesses in their location. They are working with them day in and day out. They understand who's being successful, who's ready to grow, and who's struggling. And so they are required to provide me with a quarterly narrative on the strengths and weaknesses of their membership. That allows me to provide the resources to businesses that are growing, while at the same time provide help to businesses that may be struggling. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
Just distinguish between Entrepreneur Center, which is something we're still talking to the university about, and something like that.
Sure. So we did some research on this when we were first looking into it. The city owned this building and it sat vacant for a very long time. We had long considered doing a Entrepreneur Center that was city run. We spoke to New Albany, we spoke to Dublin, and we spoke to Grove City. And quite honestly, the feedback that I received from Dublin, particularly their Entrepreneur Center, their deck, it wound up sounding like they were subsidizing space for businesses, providing low rent for businesses that were becoming complacent in their space. So they didn't have the incentive to grow up and out of the space. It's still a very collaborative group, but I'm not going to lie, I was pretty excited to see the private component grab this and run with it.
I do think one of the major differences between an Entrepreneur Center and a co-working space is, and Matt, the owner of the company, will tell you that immediately, is an Entrepreneur Center is to work with first stage startups. Companies that oftentimes don't have any funding, they don't have any employees, they don't have anything, they're working on a business plan oftentimes, working on turning an idea into a business. That is not Matt's customer base. He really is working with those second, third stage companies that have been funded. A lot of them do have employees at the stage where they're, especially when they're actually renting actual office space in there and getting out of the co-working model itself. But yeah, he does not consider himself to be somebody who's incubating first stage startup companies.
Any questions? Comments?
Questions?
Sure.
You want to start with me?
I'll start with you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. McClough. I appreciate you coming on here tonight. The first co-op, when did it start?
It started fall 2016. Yeah, it's only been open about 7 months.
And you said when you were mentioning the abatements, the rent abatements, is that on the one that's currently?
Yeah. So we actually did not incentivize their first location. They took an old warehouse, old hardware building, and put about $500,000 of renovations into the space and opened without so much as an email to me. As they were starting to open, I quickly got to know them pretty well and showed them a space that we had, Kilbourne building. That's the building that we incentivized.
Okay.
Yep. And the way that we incentivized it was they received rent concessions. So we took fair market value for the building and gave them, we said, hey, you're putting $700,000 of renovations into our building. This is now our equity. We will give you, at $15 per square foot, we'll give you this many months of abated rent.
Is there any intention to sell that building at any time to Cohatch, or is there?
No.
It's going to stay city owned?
Certainly not now.
Okay. So being that it's so new, you haven't seen any businesses who have left that and then actually become brick and mortar someplace?
So we're working with a couple right now that are that have they actually have letters of intent to locate their retail components in the Burlington Mall.
Okay. And then I'm just curious, the big concern I always have when we discuss this is, actually you touch base on tracking, the income tax. I mean, so what are you hearing from your finance department? What's the headaches? I don't expect you to really answer anything for them.
They're not very happy with me, to be honest. It's very much a challenge. We have a new finance director as well, and getting him up to speed, it's been a challenge. So a couple of the things that we're looking at, Cohatch has a membership agreement with every one of their members. We are beefing up the language in those membership agreements that make them aware of Ohio Revised Code. If you're in this community, you're working in this community more than 21 days, you owe them something. Education. So Cohatch has also agreed to educate their membership, making people aware, whether that be seminars or whatever, that there is a responsibility to us. And then the last piece is we're actually requiring the new members in the new location to submit a W-9. So we want to be able to track them so that at the end of the year, if they're not paying us income tax revenue, they're receiving a letter from my finance director asking them what's up.
Great. And then just so I make sure I wrote this down, you guys did abatements plus grants to be paid back.
Not to be paid back. So we gave them free rent in exchange for the renovations. And then what we did was we had a $100,000 development grant.
Okay.
It's not to be paid back. It's for 10 years. And so for a 10-year period, they are required to do those monthly seminars to our public, allow people into the space,
So there's
quarterly
function
reports.
laid out.
That's
So you've
correct.
got something in return.
That's
for the
correct.
Community for the
Yep.
taxpayer money.
The front loading is, so it's $100,000 over 10 years. It was 40, 20, 20, 20.
Okay.
And then we don't pay them another dollar after year 4 of the agreement.
But the taxpayers got something in return for
That's correct.
$100,000.
Yep. It's a public building, and it was to us, it was very important that the community still have access to that building, not only physically, but Cohatch and the library, the Worthington Library System, are now partnering to provide programming free of charge to the community. So on a monthly basis, you can come and Cohatch is going to be receptive to our ideas and the library's ideas, so helping to program that space.
And then my last question is, it's interesting when Shauna mentioned the Entrepreneurial Center about, whether to become complacent, never really have a reason to. Is there something set up where, they have to leave at some point to keep things turning? And
Not in Cohatch.
Okay.
Dublin does. They didn't originally. They do now because they had some folks that were in there like 4 or 5 years. So what Dublin does now is they actually require these businesses every 3 years they have to submit a plan that shows that they're growing, or else
that's
they.
what the Dublin runs.
Dublin is on an incubator, though.
Yeah.
It's not a co-working office building.
Really. Thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Okay. Ms. Keller, do you have anything? Any questions?
No.
George?
Nope.
Well, I visited Cohatch. George and I went down, and I was very impressed. I like the fact that they even include children, teaching children how to. They made cookies and sell the cookies, and then a portion they could keep what it cost them, and then a portion that had to go to fundraising. So it's teaching a whole lot more. I was just very impressed. So thank you very much for taking the time to come up on a short notice and trying to explain this all to the rest of council.
Happy to help.
So, thank you.
It was Worthington
Yes,
night.
it was Worthington night.
They'll make me come down there now, so.
Okay, can I have Ted Miller and Brandon Klein come forward, please?
Okay, on behalf of the Gazette and its readers, I'm happy to present the 2017 award for Best Park to Mingo Park. Great. And for the Jack Lawrence Pool at Mingo for Best Pool. Congratulations.
Hey, good job. Did you want to say anything?
I'll just be short and sweet, but thanks for the appreciation and the group effort. I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Thanks, Brandon. Okay, item 11, Elaine, if you'll please read this in the record.
Ordinance number 17-37, an ordinance amending the 2017 appropriations ordinance to provide funding for professional services to complete an update to the city's current comprehensive plan.
Dave, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add to the presentation last time.
That's what I
Would
wanted.
appreciate your consideration of this.
Do you want to take it to a third reading, or do you want to vote on it tonight? It's the wish of council.
I'm in favor of going tonight.
Okay? Does somebody want
I'll
to?
second.
Okay. So I have a
Make an official motion then.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Ordinance 17-37.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Browning. Is that just as well?
Oh, that's right. It's-
I was trying to keep track of what we want.
So I'll move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 17-37.
Second?
Okay. So I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Browning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for approval of ordinance 17-37.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Browning. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. And if you'll read item 12 into the record, please, consideration of resolution 17-35.
Resolution number 17-35, a resolution of no objection to the expansion of the Concord Scioto Community Authority, a new community authority under Chapter 349 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Mr. Schilling?
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is actually the second time council has been brought an expansion of this particular authority. So the third time you would have voted on it, first to accept the creation of it, then to expand it, and now this would be the second expansion. Recently, we've kind of taken a different approach on some of these NCAs. We've done an analysis as to whether they would have potentially an impact on the city. Most notably, that would be one at the Outlet Mall. However, this one falls squarely in the old category of we've analyzed it. There's little to no impact whatsoever on the city, so we would recommend approving this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? What is the wish of council on resolution 17-35?
Move for approval of ordinance resolution 17-35.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Hellinger. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Abstain.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 13 is consideration of ordinance number 17-38. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 17-38, an ordinance approving a community reinvestment area agreement and school compensation agreement with Kirby Ventures LLC, Oak and Brazen LLC, Delaware City Schools, Delaware Area Career Center, and the City of Delaware for investment in real property improvements on a building at 38 East Winter Street and declaring an emergency. Emergency clause, that this ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary to provide for the public peace, safety, health, and welfare of the city, and is necessary to finalize negotiations, and as such will be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes?
Madam Mayor, members of council, hello again. We have before you a request for the city to enter into a CRA agreement as well as a school compensation agreement, as read off by the clerk there, for a business that's looking to renovate 38 East Winter Street. That is the building, if you're looking at the front of the Strand, just to the left of the Strand. We all know that's been building, that building's been vacant for, I think, over 12 years now. I think that's the number I've been told. It's in considerable need of help and love. Mr. Kirby here has purchased the building recently and is looking at investing $110,000 into the first floor of the building to open his business, and I'll let him touch base on that business here in a moment. In turn, for a 15-year, 100% abatement on those renovations. Now, again, this is a renovation of a building, so the abatement's only on the improvements themselves, not on the entire building. He would be, Mr. Kirby would be creating 6 new full-time equivalent positions with a total payroll of $160,000. And he also would be making off a 30% school pilot payment off directly to the Delaware City school system, as well as Delaware Area Career Center to help compensate them for the abatement itself. With that being said, I'll introduce you to Mr. Kirby and let him talk a little bit about his business here and his request for the abatement.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me tonight. I'll kind of tell you just a little bit about.
Can I stop you for 1
Sure.
second? Can I have your name and address for the record? I'm sorry.
Name it and residential address. Is it okay? Or business yet? Jeff Kirby. It's 38 East Winter Street, Delaware.
Thank you. She'll yell at me later if you don't do
Yeah,
that.
no, yeah. So just to tell you a little bit about me, my wife and I opened the Powell Village Winery in 2011, right in downtown Powell. We're an urban wine producer. We buy all of our grapes and juice mainly from the Central Coast and Central Valley, California, as well as the Columbia Valley in Washington State. We have a production facility that we built a couple years ago on our property in Powell, where we produce all the wines, and then we have a tasting room located right in downtown Powell. We have purchased the building in downtown Delaware to do essentially the same concept on steroids. It's about 4 times the size of what we have in Powell. So you'll be able to see the production. There'll be a private event barrel room where people could hold private events, as well as a tasting room area with a long bar and some seating and that sort of stuff. And I have my background. I actually graduated from the Knowles School of Architecture, so I have an architecture background, which plays a big role in being able to renovate the space and helps me save a lot of money on that as well. So that's kind of what we're doing there. The name, just so that you know what the name is going to be, it's going to be called the Oak and Brazen Wine Company, grown on the coast, crafted in the city. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Was this the finish line before?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
How long has your Powell location been open?
Since 2011. Yep.
Any other questions?
When you were going to open? When you want to open?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So goal would be Thanksgiving, but I am going through the Alcohol Tax and Trade Bureau, which is the federal entity that controls producers. And they are overwhelmed right now and taking a really long time to pass. Even though I'm already a producer, it's a whole new permit. It takes a really long time to pass, and they're on average to 5 to 6 months right now. So the goal is to get that kind of submitted as quickly as possible, and that's my plan, but it's all in their hands really. But it gives me a significant amount of time to work on the renovation as well, so it works out.
No, it's an outstanding addition to downtown. I know being on the Strand board, that's an important property to see developed, and it provides a nice anchor to that end of the block, and just provides more vitality. We're happy to see see you doing this.
Yeah, I think it's a great piece there. We're not going to be a full-service restaurant. We're going to have small food plates, flatbreads, cheeses, breads, that sort of thing. But because you already have great restaurants here and more coming along, I'm sure, we just want to be a piece where, you come before dinner or after dinner to have a glass of wine and maybe an appetizer or dessert. And so I think, yeah, it's a really nice fit for the downtown area.
You see using the second space, is that event space initially?
Well-
Initially, it's just the first floor.
Yeah, it's first floor. It's a monster building. Yeah, so it's almost 9,000 square feet, 4,500 per floor. So a big project. So my focus is really that downstairs to get that done. But the office demand here, I've showed the top already 4 times, and I'm not ready to do that. But if I can get somebody in there, there's an opportunity there. So I think office is the direction that I think I'll end up going with that. Has an elevator in there, which is nice. I think it's the only building in downtown Delaware that has an elevator.
The elevator still works then?
We'll get it checked, but we'll get it working. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So, but that's the second floor is kind of an afterthought right now, unless we find the right user that wants to go. It's not going to be ready till first of the next year. So.
Going back to my earlier comments about office space, we've had a couple potential office users approach Mr. Kirby to talk about the second floor, but yeah, that's a huge undertaking in time and dollars to get that space right.
Yeah.
So since you heard all about Dora tonight and you're opening a new business in Delaware that's going to have wine, what's your take on it?
I didn't even know that was going to come up tonight. I actually asked Sean, I've been on Sean about that, because I, as a business owner, especially in the drinks world, would love to see that for special events. I agree. I don't think it should be something that, I agree with what most of you were saying. I don't think it should be something that's all the time. Whatever, I can't remember what you were saying that was called, sip and walk or sip and stroll. I think just the events, and I would also consider, you can craft those things however you want. Liquor, I would almost probably remove from people being able to walk around with some sort of liquor drink. But obviously beer and wine, I'd be focused on wine. It's great because it drives the people into the businesses for those special events. Instead of bringing in a big distributor like that, I think that's spectacular. In Delaware, the reason we're seeking out Delaware is because it's made a name for themselves in the food and drink world. It really has. We hear about it at our Powell location all the time. So that's one of the reasons I came up here looking. And that's only going to really put a buzz on downtown Delaware. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, pun, yeah. No.
Okay, what is the wish of council? You want to vote on this tonight, or you want to take it to another reading?
What do our rules say? Do our rules say anything about this?
Economic development incentives. Council might suspend the rules in the following circumstances. Economic development incentives offered pursuant to pre-approved economic development incentive plan.
I'd like to add, with the way the state law is written in regards to this area, is Mr. Kirby cannot actually hammer a nail until you pass this. So he will have to wait on certain renovations until.
I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 17-38.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Keller, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move to enact the emergency clause on ordinance 17-38.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move to approve ordinance 17-38.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Abstain, and I'm only abstaining because I did the closing for Mr. Kirby, so it still passed. Thank you, and good luck.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excited to be here.
Item 14 is consideration of ordinance number 17-39. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 17-39, an ordinance amending the 2017 appropriations ordinance to provide funding for an American Electric Power grant to complete a sign plan and bid documents for replacement industrial park sign approximately at Pittsburgh Drive and London Road.
Thank you. Dave?
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is as the clerk just read. It was a AP grant that was received by the city last year. We didn't get it programmed into the budget, and so this would supplement the 2017 appropriations to program it in so that we can work on the replacement design through biddable documents for the industrial sign approximately at Pittsburgh and London, right in front of the water tower. Obviously, we fit that in with our new brand and our new wayfinding, but also fit it into the overall industrial area, very specific wayfinding plan that we've started working on as well. So
How many
we
years have we
appreciate
been
your
talking about this?
consideration.
Too long. Too long. As long as you've been on
As long as
council,
I've been
as
on
long as
council.
I've been here. So we want to get it done.
Yeah.
And this provides us that opportunity. That sign was put up back, I think, in the 80s when the industrial park was first put up. We
It won't fall down.
We change out the signage, but since then, we've done a lot with branding and wayfinding, so we've got a good opportunity here.
Sorry, I'll add, as part of this, I think Dave might reference this, but we actually get a full plan for all of our industrial corridors, business corridors rather, as well. So this sign can be replicated in an appropriate manner for Summer Parkway and elsewhere
London
throughout the
Road.
community. Yeah, some of the legacy industrial areas and whatnot, we can have very consistent signage as part of our wayfinding
The
plan.
idea would be to help with the marketing and branding of the overall area, which is difficult, as you can imagine, because it's several thousand acres and has developed in many different ways. But we need to find a way to enhance that effort, as well as provide, wayfinding that is consistent with our existing wayfinding plan and our merging signage around the community.
Okay. What is which council?
Motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 1739.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hellinger, second by Mr. Browning. Who was it?
It was me.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move to approve ordinance 1739.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hellinger, second by Mr. Browning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, how long is it gonna take you to get it done now? Dave and Sean?
It's going to take a little while to do it right, but we think we've done the other plans right, and that's evidenced by the emerging signage, so we'll get right on it now.
Okay. Item 15 is consideration of ordinance number 17-40. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 17-40, an ordinance supplementing the 2017 appropriations ordinance to provide additional funding for engineering wages and declaring an emergency. Emergency clause. That this ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary to provide for the public peace, safety, health, and welfare of the city, and for the further reason to provide for the timely review of development plans and for the continued utilization of construction inspection services, and as such will be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. If you look around, there's a lot of construction going on right now in the city. We've got 15 active projects right now. We have another 10 with approved plans, ready to start something, and another 15 in the queue through Dave's process and the engineering plan review process. So we're very busy. In the past, we've used primarily professional services for our construction inspectors, our seasonal positions in the summertime. If you go way back, I'm talking more than 15 years, we used to have more in-house inspectors. What this ordinance presents tonight is an opportunity to try to bring in some seasonal in-house inspection. We've got some, as a demographic change in the community, we're getting some professional folks who've retired in the engineering field and are looking for some seasonal work and have approached us. We'd like to be able to tap into that in order to get their expertise to use them as construction inspection in the field. So it really taps into the community talent. So all we're really doing by this ordinance is transferring money that we had established for professional services back into wages so we can go ahead and hire those folks as seasonal employees in the city. We do have, we are currently advertising, have a number of applicants right now. Within another week, we'd like to go through, start vetting those and bring some folks in. In order to do that, we need to approve this ordinance first in order to make the funding available to hire those folks. I do want to make another point too, and that's that we will be back at some point probably in August, September for additional supplemental. We have $500,000 appropriated this year for inspection total for development. We've already invoiced out $1.4 million in fees for both engineering and inspection. Haven't received all the payments in yet, but hopefully we will receive all those. So you can see we're on course for probably the highest year of, including pre-recession of development and growth and fee collection. So this gives us just one more good tool to be able to try to keep control of some of the development out there. So again, we'll be probably back in August or September with a supplemental to add more funding into the professional services. And I'll be able to report how much of that $1.4 million we've actually collected working with Dean at that point. I would ask that if since we are interviewing, if possible, if we could approve tonight with emergency clause, we could move fairly quickly ahead with this.
Any questions for Bill? Dean, you look like you want to say something.
Well, I'm going to wait and see if there's any questions.
Okay.
Bill, it's related to this, but not
Okay.
to what he just presented.
Any questions? Okay.
If you are going to adopt it tonight, it has to be amended because we don't transfer funds between appropriate wages and other costs. Our legal level of budgetary control is established at the wage level and the other expenditure. So it actually has to be a supplemental appropriation, appropriating wages and pension and whatever else, and then reducing the appropriation for professional services. But based on what Bill says, you might as well not waste your time with that because you're going to come back and supplement that anyways. So if you want to adopt it tonight, I could probably craft the language to amend it. Or I know it said go to a second reading, but Bill just said he'd like to have it done tonight. I could change it before the second reading.
We could probably
ready to offer.
We could probably go to another reading if.
Well, the other side of it, we have an existing appropriation for wages. We're not going to overspend that because we're less than halfway through the year. So nothing precludes him from hiring the people. It's just at some point we need to, if we're going to go over, we need to have the additional appropriation for wages.
I think we should probably change it and bring it back to you on that second reading. We're not,
that's fine.
We have the ability to hire now, but we've got to go through that process. So 2 weeks is not going to keep us from doing that, I don't think.
Okay.
If that's okay.
So we'll go to another reading with.
We'll make those changes and bring that back to you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Bill, for all the hard work too.
Thank you.
Okay, item 16 is consideration of ordinance 17-41.
Ordinance number 17-41, an ordinance amending the Delaware Municipal Court and Clerk of Court employee benefits and leave policies.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Judge Mary Ann Hemmeter, and I'm one of the municipal court judges. What we are asking for is a pretty simple change. We are creating a new position, a deputy director or deputy chief of community control. And the reason we're doing this is because we are booming. We have over 1,500 people on probation. Where we see growth is on our intensive supervision caseload. These are the domestic violence cases, the repeat offenders, the stalking cases, the menacing cases. And quite frankly, if we don't do something soon, we're going to lose officers. Every one of our officers has over 200 people. Some have close to 300 people on their caseload. And what we are finding is that our director, Doug Stoglers, who can also answer any questions for you, is that in order to do what I would consider good probation, which means house visits, random urinalysis, random test. Quite frankly, it takes more than one person to do that. And we need a deputy chief to help coordinate the home visits and to make sure the people on intensive supervision are getting the type of supervision that our community deserves. It does not, it's a change in position. The pay range is the same, and the cost can be absorbed by the municipal court now in our current budget. So at this point in time, it won't require any extra money. So that's what we're doing. Are there any questions?
Just to add on, we're doing this procedurally because under our pay plans, all the titles have
We
to be
don't
spelled out. And that's basically what this is a new title because as Judge Hemmer indicated, the pay is within the existing range for the old title, but we just couldn't give someone a new title without having a justification. So that's why I recommended doing this action.
So I don't want to say it's a technicality, but it kind of is because the money's already there. And quite frankly, the personnel is already there. It's just we're asking somebody to step up, take on more of an administrative role. And quite frankly, the court thought it wasn't professional to ask somebody to take on those responsibilities without a consistent job title. Are there any questions?
How many are on probation, you said?
We have 1,540. That's a lot.
And what's the
That
average?
is countywide though, not just the
Okay, I
city of
feel a little
Delaware.
better. No, we have- I think people always forget we are a countywide court, even though we're the municipal court. Our jurisdiction is countywide. It grows, and like I said, I think the 1,500 is pretty steady for a municipal court. Where we're seeing the growth is on the intensive supervision cases. Even this year, we haven't been tracking these numbers for too long, but the intensive supervision cases are up to 154 cases, which doesn't sound like a lot, but those are the people that require either weekly or biweekly visits, random home visits, random urinalysis. And Mr. Stogler, who is our chief, can speak more specifically to some of that. That's where we're seeing the real pressure being put on our probation officers, because anybody who comes down to municipal court, your caseload walks in on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays when we do arraignments. So you're kind of chained to your desk during those time periods because that's when people are coming in. And then it's to get out, to do the home visits, to do the drug testing, to follow up on some of the mental health issues we're running into. That's requiring my officers to, we're doing flex time. What else are we doing to try to make it so they can, go out on a Friday night and they hit the bars. You'd be surprised how many of our probationers get found at certain bars, and they're not supposed to even be at bars, much less drinking. But in order to do that, we're doing all kinds of creative things, but quite frankly, it's taking an administrative toll on Doug Stogler, and so he needs a deputy chief that he can help delegate some of those responsibilities to. And Doug also wants to go on vacation eventually, so.
Basically, what it boils down to is when I first started here 6 years ago, we had 5 probation officers in the office. We now have 6. At the end of this year, we will be hiring our 7th. The caseloads aren't getting any smaller as we add people. We still have people that average around 300 people on their caseload. So we are getting more cases coming out of court. We're supervising more people. And we feel it's time to have a chain of command in the office. Right now, it's just me. And when I'm not in the office, when I'm at committee meetings, which seems that I'm at a committee meeting 2 or 3 times a week now, it's nice to have somebody else that the rest of the office can go to. And then I can also delegate some of my responsibilities. So pretty common sense stuff.
Okay, any questions for council? What is the wish of council?
I'm going to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 17.
Second.
I don't think we have to suspend rules. Are we?
First reading.
Well, now, of course, we need to, okay, then this is wrong. Okay, go for it.
It doesn't have on
I am passing. Okay, motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by.
Here.
Here?
Sure.
Mr. Elliott.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Here. Yes. See, now I'm confused.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the approval of ordinance 17-41.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Hellinger. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Thank you. Sorry you're having to work so hard. Good job.
Oh, never mind. I was saying, remember that in the fall when we come around?
Yeah. Item 17 is ordinance number 17-42. Please read this in the record.
Ordinance number 17-42, an ordinance amending the management, professional, technical, confidential, and supervisory employees pay plan.
Mr. Stelter?
This change is predicated on a budget change that put in the 2017 budget. We've talked about our performance-based or outcome-based, service-based budget document, and was having discussions with the Finance Committee about trying to take that next step to really get a little bit more accurate information, realizing that it's difficult at a department level to really do some cost accounting type of things. I was hoping to see if we could recruit this position, which will be a vacant position. The current person in the position as a financial specialist 2 is retiring September 28th after more than 30 years of doing that job. And I want to see if it's going to be possible for us to go out and recruit somebody that has a cost accounting background that can come to the position and not necessarily have to have me try to show them, but they can bring that expertise to the table. I don't know if we can do that within the pay range that's there, but I want to give it a shot. That's why this adds the position to the pay plan at M12 level. The current person retiring was at M8. I'd like to leave that position in the pay table because in the event, we don't really recruit the type of person that I think can add that level, and we'll just fill it at a financial specialist 2 where it was and keep going in that regard. Timing wise, it'll take us 2 months or more to even go through a recruitment process. I know there's no emergency clause, and if you want to go to 3 readings, we can do that too. But I'd entertain any questions. The money is appropriated to do that. I also appropriated money to have some carry our, to have the person start before the other person retires. It's just a lot of transfer of institutional knowledge. When we did the budget, I thought the existing employee would retire at the end of the year. She did indicate she's going to leave at the end of September, so that we need to get moving on trying to get this position filled.
So have you posted the position yet?
No.
Okay, do you want to take it to another reading or want to vote on it tonight?
I make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 1742.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Browning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Motion to approve ordinance 17-42.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Browning. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 18, which is consideration of ordinance 17-43.
Link to 44. How do you want to handle these, Dave? Is
Can you do
a,
them all separate or
because you've
together?
got
So
some,
you could do 18 and 19, and then you could do 20 through 23.
Okay, so if you read 18 and 19.
Ordinance number 17-43, an ordinance for Pulte Homes approving a final development plan for the communities at Glen Ross, Section 11, for 58 single-family lots on 22.74 acres on property zoned R2 PMU, one family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district, and located south of Cheshire Road on Winterbourne Drive, Solstice Road, Stone Quarry Drive, and Hollyberry Lane. Ordinance number 17-44, an ordinance for Pulte Homes approving a final subdivision plat for the communities at Glen Ross, Section 11, for 58 single-family lots on 22.74 acres on property zoned R2 PMU, one family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district, and located south of Cheshire Road on Winterbourne Drive, Solstice Road, Stone Quarry Drive, and Hollyberry Lane.
Hollyberry Lane, really? Where'd you get this?
Really? We don't name them. We received the road names from the developers. Madam Mayor, members of council, I really just want to give Elaine a chance to catch her breath before she reads the next 4 or 5 cases in a row. This is the first reading, so we'll present these to you at your next meeting. Did you get a drink?
I'm good. Okay, take a breath and go.
Let's do it. Ordinance number 17-45, an ordinance for Glen Road Capital LLC approving a preliminary development plan for Belmont Place, Sections 4 and 5 for 72 single-family lots on approximately 21.5 acres on property zoned R3 PMU, one family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district, and located on McNamara Loop, Neville Lane, and Square Gator Lane. Ordinance number 17-46, an ordinance for Glen Road Capital LLC approving a final development plan for Belmont Place Sections 4 and 5 for 72 single-family lots on approximately 21.5 acres on property zoned R3 PMU, one family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district and located on McNamara Loop, Neville Lane, and Square Gator Lane. Ordinance number 17-47, an ordinance for Glen Road Capital LLC approving a preliminary subdivision plat for Belmont Place Sections 4 and 5 for 72 single-family lots on approximately 21.5 acres on property zoned R3 PMU, one family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district and located on McNamara Loop, Neville Lane, and Square Gator Lane. And ordinance number 17-48, an ordinance for Glen Road Capital LLC approving a final subdivision plat for Belmont Place Section 4 for 34 single-family lots on approximately 10.426 acres on property zoned R3 PMU, one family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district and located on McNamara Loop and Square Gator Lane.
Thank you. Good job.
Madam Mayor, members of council, again, these are first readings, so we'll present them at your next council meeting.
Thank you. We're just going to go down and do 25 and 26, then we're going to take a break and go into executive session. How's that sound? Okay, city manager's report.
We had the Now Watershed Festival this past weekend, and it was well attended. I was able to get there at the end. Unfortunately, it pretty much closed down at that point, but that was the only time I could get over there. I know it was a pretty big success according to Colin Smith, our sustainability coordinator, who unfortunately will be leaving us. He's going to be heading to Wisconsin, and unfortunately, his last day I think will be next week, and we'll miss him. And that position has been advertised, and we look forward to replacing it with a quality candidate as Colin was, and his predecessor, Kristen Piper. You received this evening at your place setting a letter from Representative Duffy in regards to a letter that the city sent as part of the Council of Mayors and Managers of Central Ohio, and it was in regards to legislation that was put into the state, into the budget bill, which would eliminate the surcharging that the city of Columbus now has with surrounding communities. And it had implications for us. It was written for the city of Columbus specifically, but we had concerns because it eliminated a lot of the requirements now for annexation, those kinds of things. Representative Duffy has taken exception, I think, to that. My understanding was that he asked for an opportunity to speak to our organization. I was not aware of that. But that's just kind of the background on that the letter from him, and I'll keep you posted as we hear more from the organization at our next meeting. Hats off to Officer Bob Hatcher, Chief Pijanowski, and all the others for the International Police Mountain Biking Association. If you saw the St. Louis Metropolitan District van cruising around, and others from all over the country. They were here for a week-long conference, which Ohio Wesleyan hosted. Bob Hatcher put in for that, applied for that, and actually we were the host city. And I know it was great feedback. Chief, did you want to add anything to that? I was able to get over there on Friday, and we got some pictures and
It was a great event. It was a lot of work. The guys did a great job putting it together. It was very well received. It was a great partnership with Wesleyan. I know I got a lot of feedback from the participants at the conference, how much they enjoyed their experience here, both at the conference and downtown. Downtown opened up their doors. There was nothing but praise and compliments about the nature of the city of Delaware. So overall, it was a great experience, and I've heard from some of the downtown merchants and restaurant owners that they really appreciated the business. So it really was a new business model for IPIMBA and how they conduct these conferences. But next year, they're going to St. Louis, where they've teamed up with Washington University. So it may be something that we start to see more of in the future, and that would be good for Wesleyan as well as the downtown.
Yeah, it was a great event. Councilwoman McKellar had brought to my attention some concerns she had from residents regarding one of the more recent blastings at National Lime and Stone. I have a phone conversation with the National Lime and Stone Wednesday morning to talk about that. The notification procedure, which we get now, what we're trying to do is broaden that to include the homeowners association so they can get the word out in advance. We typically get that information from Chief Donahue. He sends it out. We'd like to just broaden that distribution. I don't think there'll be an issue with that. And then just talk about some of the other issues they've been brought to the attention of Councilwoman Keller with respect to the blasting. So stay tuned on that. I informed you last month regarding the Community Development Block Grant Program and proposed cuts under the Trump administration's proposed budget. Those would be quite drastic for the city. I will be providing you a summary of what the impact would be on the city in my biweekly update, and then asking perhaps to take, just go on record as opposing those cuts at your upcoming meeting. I know Dave was able to do that at the more recent Planning Commission meeting, so it's a concern of ours, and we'll keep you posted on that. And Jackie, who has been out for the last few weeks with a broken wrist, which she had surgery on, will be back on Wednesday. So she'll be welcome back. That's all I have. And I'll be out of the office tomorrow and Thursday, and Friday I'll be at that the Transportation Leadership Academy that I informed you about a couple of weeks ago. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Jones?
I have nothing tonight, Mayor.
Mrs. Keller?
I have just a public service.
Okay.
So everyone knows I'm a big advocate for Lyme disease and awareness. And I had another situation with my son. We had a tick that we were able to pull off of him. And so I would love to help get the word out about a couple resources that I discovered. If you have something like this happen in your family where you find a tick on your body, there is a resource called Tick Encounter Resource Center, where you can snap a picture of the tick and send it to them. Because if you're trying to identify it yourself online, it's impossible. Trust me, we sat there with a magnifying glass. And so they can tell you within almost 24 hours, it was a female, it was attached for this long, it is this type of tick, it's gross. Then there's a place, the University of Massachusetts will test the tick. So save it, don't get rid of it, because once you get rid of the tick, testing your body could take years for tests to show up. But if you actually test the tick, it's only $50, and you can send it to tickreport.com. You pay, and then they give you an order number, and you literally put it in a sandwich bag with your order number and mail it to them. And so then I just got a report in my email that they have their identification of the tick matches the picture that the other website sent me. And it's probably going to be okay. It's a dog tick and they don't carry Lyme disease. But ticks are out there. We're so careful. And this one was in his hair. We do tick checks when they come in from just the yard, just rolling around in the grass. So they're out there.
It's
So sorry to pass along gross info, but it just makes me so afraid to think of our parks workers that are out there actually in the field. This is just kids playing in the yard. And so if something like this happens, just know that those things are out there. If the newspaper wants to put something out there, I'd be happy to share information too, just so that we can let the public know. And then, of course, I took him to the doctor, and the pediatrician told me that Lyme is not endemic to Delaware. And I said, Lyme has been endemic to Delaware for years. So sometimes even the doctors don't know that we're now living in a Lyme endemic area, which means the protocols for tick bites are completely different. So sometimes you have to be the one to educate your doctor and say, this is a Lyme endemic area, so we're following the Lyme endemic protocol. So just wanted to put that out there. Everything's going to be fine, it looks like. Dog ticks only carry Rocky Mountain spotted fever and not so much around here. But save the tick, save the tick.
All right, thank you for that information.
No problem.
Go ahead, Mr. Browning, follow that one.
I have no ticks.
Yeah.
I have nothing to report, thank you.
Mr. Roy? Mr. Hollinger?
Just real quick, real glad to see the Citizens Academy.
Mhm.
And I know that I end up responding to a lot of citizen complaints on various social media platforms.
Yeah, thanks.
And yeah, just,
We appreciate that
yeah.
you're the spokesman.
Yeah, thanks. And and you know, so much of this, and Tom and I have had this discussion, is just, and Lisa, you've brought this up multiple times also, getting more engagement with our citizens and getting more communications methods out there. The Citizens Academy is great because it really gives people a good underpinning and understanding. So when somebody comes out of left field with something, you know, it's much more effective if, you know, 2 or 3 other people can also reach up and say, no, that isn't how that works. You know, I learned this in Citizens Academy, whatever, you know, because quite often people will look at people sitting in this room as, well, we're part of a conspiracy. It's all government conspiracy. We're all aliens and part of the Trilateral Commission. So it's great that we can get more people educated, get them up to speed, and they can really help then spread that word out and make our community as a whole better. And I know that you're working with Lee, and I saw Lee get more engaged in social media here lately. Yeah. And I think that's good. You know, we just need to try and stay on top of things so they don't fester.
Okay.
But that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer? I just want to say that the race, the New Moon race, was absolutely fabulous. I've seen several emails saying what a great race it was this year. The route was better. Just he does a wonderful job, Craig Thompson. I can't thank him enough. Ironman is around the corner. We had a meeting last week with our captains. We have about almost 500 people signed up as far as volunteers. We're still looking for more. Chief, I did get a call on Stilson Street. I don't know if he returned his call about speeders. I drove down there today. I know it's a short street, but he assures me he is having speeding problems. He said this happened a few years ago, so if you could maybe put the trailer down there.
We actually had an officer stop out and talk to him, so we're keeping an eye on the area.
Okay, all righty. And we are going to have the 4th of July parade. We had a citizen, actually had 4 different citizens contact me through Facebook. And Eric Borio has a team of about 17 volunteers so far, so there will be a parade this year. It will be on July 4th. Same route as last year. It'll start at 3 o'clock. And that's it. Oh, yes. Let me give the date here. June 17th.
This Saturday.
This Saturday, June 17th, is the renaming of Veterans Way to Joe DiGenova Way at 10 a.m. Thank you. And you might want to come. From what I hear, we might be putting, should I spill it? Okay, never mind. Just come, you're going to get a good surprise.
Surprise, yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
And then a week later is the water plant
Yes.
dedication and education center.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous that the academy got to go over there and we hadn't even seen it yet. And with that, I look for motion to adjourn, or no, to go into executive What?
Just want to take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break. What were you gonna say?
Before we make the motion, because Councilman Brown is new, would you indulge me in like a 3-minute overview of executive session so I can explain to him what's going on before when we come back to break? It's fine.
When you come back, okay,
Just want to kind of go over some things in executive session. Sorry.
okay.
Or during break.
So we're gonna take a 5-minute break and it is 8:53.
I can call. So we'll just.
Oh.
No, it was 2 weeks ago.
Okay, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Before we, I did prepare something. I'm actually prepared.
Okay, Darren, you got 3 minutes. Let's go. Darren,
Just
because
go
he wants
on.
to
Oh.
explain something. and then
Yes, so
we'll-
really quickly, I want to explain something both to new Councilman Browning, but also we had a question about a particular element of executive session. So before we go into executive session, I want to kind of do a quick primer, refresher, and then go into the specific question. So as we all know, and I think I briefed Jim on it briefly, a majority vote can send us into executive session. I did confirm that because we've never had anybody not vote for it. But you can only go into executive session for certain enumerated reasons. Most of them make sense because they are, well, we wouldn't want the public to know because that would defeat our position. So buying and selling property, if we're negotiating how much we're going to pay for property, well, I would just sit there if I was the seller and know exactly how much it is. Personnel is one we hear a lot. Pending litigation is one we have a lot. Labor negotiations is one we have a lot. A new one that I believe came at the end of 2013 is economic development. And so it's kind of an emerging area that we never used to have. And so I never grew up learning about it. And it's a little weird. And that's why I want to kind of dig into that a little deeper. Economic development is allowed to consider confidential information related to the marketing plan, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance, or to negotiations respecting a request for economic development assistance, provided that both of the following conditions apply. And this is where it gets a little weird. One, it's directly related to a request for economic development assistance, or that involves public infrastructure improvements or extension of utility services that are directly related to economic development projects. So if a business wants to go here and we're going to extend the road, or we're going to pay the cost of utilities, that would be the first prong. But the second prong, and I just didn't know about this because it's never come up, the unanimous quorum of the body has to decide to go in for executive session. So unlike every other executive session where it's just a majority, it has to be unanimous for this economic development. And again, we've been unanimous every single executive session since I've been here, but I got the question and I just never had reason to look it up. So I just want to make you aware, because there may be a situation where someone doesn't want to go into executive session for the economic development, and we may have to split off our motion while we go in. So I just want to throw that out there in case anything changes, but it's just never come up, and I figured rather than answering the question back, I just shared it out to everybody, and it's a good time today to go over it. So with that, you're certainly more than welcome to go in executive session now. I don't think we had anything about economic development tonight, but I was just trying to get ahead of the ball. Tonight would most likely be potential purchase of property and or potential litigation. Any questions on that spiel there? I don't think I had 3 minutes, I apologize.
It's okay.
Just, I guess, we talked about the Cohatch project tonight earlier. And I know Sean had provided an overview of that. What's the general direction that council wants to see us pursue? I mean, obviously, we're still talking to them about that project. But we didn't have a chance to really talk about it. We heard from Mr. McCorkle.
Yeah, we're not in executive session yet,
Right, no,
but
we're
it's
still
okay to
in
talk
open
about,
session.
this is
I
probably
just-
something that can be talked about, obviously.
I had made a
outside.
note just to come back to it, because I know we had gone from that presentation to the Gazette presentation. We just didn't have a chance to have any conversation with city council about that project. And, we're still trying to work it. We'd like to get everybody down there to see it. I think you need to see it, meet Matt Davis, and, but I just wanted to.
Everything's on.
Hang it on the screen.
What would they be asking us for?
No, I don't have a computer here.
They're asking us for a grant, at this point, and I think I'm going to provide that information back to city council, but it's probably in the order of magnitude, at least the order of magnitude, if not more, of what they asked the city of Worthington.
You really need to see it. I mean, you really.
It's fantastic.
It's unbelievable.
I believe it, but how I've understood the conversations, Tom, I'm not for it, so.
I like what Worthington's done in terms of putting some requirements in there. So if we're giving the taxpayer money for this, we'll get something in return. I mean, I don't know exactly what that would be here. I mean, I think the same that they did. I trust staff to help come up with some recommendations, but I think if we're going to look at I do think it's a property legacy development. Like this is a good fit for the property. It's a good fit for the city. I'm not opposed to the parents are talking. I know connection with something.
Where, what, are we still talking about the, the jug building?
Yeah.
So Chris brought up a good point that the difference with Worthington was he was renovating a city.
Yeah, right.
This, to me, is for somebody's personal, what is our equity in this in the long term?
One of the biggest things he said when we went down there and talked to Matt, and he's a very charismatic and dynamic person, and very, very intelligent person also. But I guess from the standpoint of what does the city get out of it? Like he said, hey, if I went bankrupt, boom, okay, what have you got? Well, at least now you have a usable building. If he goes ahead and redevelops the, the jug and it's into this thing, and for whatever reason, his business model just implodes. Now at least whoever owns that building has something.
He'll own the building with our $150,000 that we're given.
But he can turn around, and at least there might be somebody that wants to buy that. Because, what we've heard over the years.
Somebody would want to buy that, that's fine, but he's still getting equity out of our $150,000.
Why didn't he renovate
How do
our
I look
building?
Jeff Kirby in the face and say, boy, man, he would like to have somebody to buy the building, he'd just buy it.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know. And I share your concern there. And that's kind of been the whole thing. And, unfortunately, we, and just not Delaware, but all municipalities across the country, we've done it to ourselves. We created this monster that if I'm going to, want to build a hot dog stand, now I'm going to come and I'm going to ask wherever I want to put it, I'm going to ask for assistance. I mean, everybody's doing that. And, we only have ourselves to blame, not us specifically, but, we are part of the problem in that. So and Carolyn, you made that same thing. Even if you got that building for free, he would still probably be coming back and saying, hey, I want you guys to help me out here somehow. That's where it gets ugly.
And then, then what Tom shared with me is, I wasn't at the meeting, but the guy basically said the money's to, help reduce the cost to him.
He can say that, but even if he bought it for $100,000, I guarantee he was still gonna ask for money.
Yeah.
If we gave him the building next door for $1, he's gonna ask for money, period.
Again, I'm one of 7 votes.
I know.
If it's to give him the money and he's gonna pay it back over 20 years, no problem. I love it. But I would never support it, especially after a guy like this tonight, trying to start a small business. This guy would love us giving free money to buy the building he's getting ready to buy. That's been sitting there for longer than this building's been sitting there, How do I look a guy like that in the face when he finds out in the paper that we just gave a guy $50,000 to purchase a building for himself? And this guy's trying to do the exact same thing. This guy's got, and this guy's dropping already how many million into it. He can't come up with that. He's just going to milk us for $150,000. He's already dropping $1.some million. And this guy's trying, not me. I can tell you right now, not me. So it can go 6-1 all day about me there.
Well, one thing that Dean and I have discussed in the past, and it's not part of the package that Sean had written up, but a lot of cities do a thing where an employer gets a percentage of the income tax that they generate. And I don't know if we'd have to do a legislative step to enact that, but it would potentially solve that problem of even the guy who testified said, we don't have an ability to really track who's paying, we can't track them down. So that would kind of put the onus on them that if you are generating a lot of money, we win, and you might get a little piece of that back. But if people are coming in and out, not paying taxes, and we can't tie it to you, then you don't get anything. And that might be a little bit closer tied. Now, I don't know if that would be amenable to Cohatch or Sean, but it is an option that other cities use. I think Dublin does that pretty extensively, don't they, Dean?
Ironically, I was sitting here going through the Business First magazine for this week, and it's all about economic development incentives, and it lists out, because we're now required to report in our financial statements any economic development incentives, so that supposedly taxpayers can see where we're giving quote unquote money away. But it lists out all the different cities. Columbus, it even has Delaware in here. And I was surprised at the majority of them that have Columbus even calls it a downtown office incentive. New Albany has it, but they're based on getting back, if you're going to come in, we'll give you 20% of the taxes you generate. Job growth incentive there. That's been an issue for years, dealing with schools and other taxing entities about doing tax abatements. We're taxing others' money. We kicked that around a few years ago, knowing that at some point we're going to have to put income tax more into that. But it is something that's pretty popular. As I look at all these different cities, they all have now they put an amount ranging from 20% of the taxes that are collected withholding taxes. Columbus's is 50%.
I think that's one of the things Sean had just shared with me earlier today, and I think with the group this evening is taking a look at that option, and that provides a little more accountability with respect to what we're getting, and that's important. So I just wanted to kind of get your feedback. It really is. It would be a great opportunity, I think, for the city.
Something to be available to existing businesses, or like the guy with the wine.
I think you'd have to define what that criteria was.
Could the guy with the wine business come in and say, I want that same deal?
And I don't, Dean and I may differ on this, I'm not sure, because we haven't talked about it extensively. I think we would probably have to do a legislative, enact it. I don't know if we have it in our toolbox yet, and Dean might have another idea, but so I guess when we crafted that, we would have to craft what our parameters would be. And I know I could look at other cities and kind of copy a little bit from theirs, but I think to get out of the business of everyone else who's saying, hey, me too, we probably would want it to be new, and you probably want it to be for a certain amount of time. I don't know. I might be speaking out to
So then are we abandoning the idea of our own entrepreneur center?
No, that is still occurring with Ohio Wesleyan. They are looking at one of their buildings on campus that they talked to us about. We shared some information about that a while back. That's still in play, and we wanted to at least establish that that's not what co-working space is. That's still something where that would be a partnership with the university. They're actually putting together an agreement that they're going to ask us to take a look at that would have us involved in that, which is exciting as well. But that's a different. But again, that will take the form of some sort of investment by the city. But that's a little different. That's with the university. That's a different kind of partnership than it would be in this case. It's all, exciting stuff that's happening. You've got people that want to make investments here. The question, really, public policy is what's the appropriate level of assistance that the city should provide for something like this, and how do you do it in such a way as it's.
How much money did we give to EMS, Dean?
Give to who?
EMS, when they expanded, or whatever they did. How much money was that?
We didn't, you mean out of this development reserve fund?
Yeah.
We didn't give money to them. What we did is we paid for part of the infrastructure improvements to open up the area.
How much was it?
Well, plus we gave them a loan.
It was a bunch.
Yeah, I think we built.
Even before that, we provided them some assistance from I believe it was the revolving loan fund. I don't know if it was a grant or if it was a revolving loan, when they were located on Johnson Drive. So we've given them assistance before. This is the first time we've been approached about a grant for a redevelopment of a downtown piece of property. We provide the facade program and various other things.
Does that help it make it go faster, Dean? It's like over there making justice to us, like.
So anyway,
that little wheel is spinning.
I know.
I really think if there was an opportunity, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I like Cohatch. I think it's cool. I'd like either more strings on the money or we're guaranteed more. That's to give 150 or whatever it is up front is, I don't like that. But some strings attached would be good. A lot of strings.
With the Worthington deal, it was clear that Worthington sought to benefit. It was mutual. This feels less mutual.
Yeah.
Other than it's not that this building is any less or any more important than you're talking about the winery, the old Finish Line. This is downtown. And I don't know how many times they have shown this building, and it needs so much work. A restaurant doesn't want to move there because of the parking problems. I mean, I would love to see this building filled with something that would benefit all of Delaware. That's the only reason I'm so excited about this. The finish line has been tucked away beside the Strand, and I mean, it's just there. Not- I appreciate.
So the building is being used. How does it benefit all of Delaware?
Well, if you go down, you'll see it. I mean, it has all the spaces that people are welcome to come into. It'll fill out into the patio, inviting, having nighttime stuff out there.
I think the other thing, Chris, is one of the survey responses that came back that scored higher than anything was economic development opportunity, provide opportunity.
You say that all the time. I'm with you. I understand that.
Right. And this
to me, this is different. This is somebody asking for money for their own personal purchase of a building. That to me is a big difference. And I'm sorry nobody else can see it or they don't want to see it, but that's the way I see it. You know, and I understand. I'm all for economic development, right? You know, but this to me is a big difference because he can buy the building, turn around, sell it next year. You know, and then somebody buys it and they're not in the patio, they're doing something else with it. And we're at 150 grand, we're getting nothing for it, but he got equity on his sale. You know, I mean, it's perfect. I mean, if you guarantee it, if you write the contract, you cannot sell this building or something for 25 years or something. I mean, but there's nothing to prevent him from selling that building next year to somebody who crochets, you know, blankets, and they're sitting there all day crocheting blankets, and there's nobody out on the patio. Nobody's using any space. This cat just walked away with, you know, $2.5 million for the building he just sold, which we gave him $150,000 to help him do it. That's my point.
So we did some kind of like a silent second or silent mortgage on it where you have to stay there for so many years and that's forgiven. I mean, there's different ways to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's I don't know that business. You know, that's where I'm at, and I have a hard time. You know, it's the phone call. It's gonna hit the paper. It's gonna hit the paper now because you know, and people are gonna say, "We're, you know, I wish I could have a pizza. I wish the city would give me free money to buy something."
What if we worked in some sort of arrangement where he worked on that corner and that was public space that the city would then benefit from, like a
civic space that
I can
but
buy.
that's part of the deal. I mean,
I can buy into all that too, but right now none of that's on the table. It's just give me $50,000 because purchase price is too high, and I want to.
And what he's purchasing doesn't include
the
absolute corner. It only includes out to where the
patio.
fireplace is.
Over.
Okay.
So it doesn't include.
He would like the rest of it. The seller of that corner, you know, we got to work on him.
So, yeah, I mean, there has to be some type of
assurance
policy. Well, there has to be policies and procedures in place to be able to vet. You know, if we only have so many resources at our disposal, we have X amount of money that we can use for this. You know, we need to be able to prioritize, and I don't necessarily think it should be just the first guy in.
Or make it a public-private partnership where we're profiting at a certain percentage for the life of the business also. And if not, then he owes us back some of the money or something where if this is a partnership and we're helping you get going, then there's got to be more in it for us.
Security and
a percentage so that
we can make our money. We'll not make it all back, but something.
I mean, I'd love to make it all back and then continue to, if this is going to be a partnership, and if it's not a partnership and it's him on his own, then good luck to you. Set up your for-profit business, and we're glad you're looking at our downtown.
I'm sure if he was sitting here, he would say no to the deal he's asking for.
Yeah, I mean, if he was on our side, you're right. You can't blame him for asking.
No.
So that's why I wanted to ask this guy from Worthington, but I didn't want to know how much we wanted to talk about. You know, I was curious to know, you know, what was his original ask? What all did they go through to get where they got to the synergy to do this?
One thing that may be helpful to know with the Worthington context is that was a city-owned building that they couldn't get anybody into, and they had invested a lot of renovation money into it, and they were just trying to get it used and get somebody in there. So situation you can decide whether they're similar or different, but they were really trying to get that building, and they actually had advertised and tried to get people in there. So when we were comparing it to,
Is that the library?
yeah.
His
And
first one, he did all on his own.
the first one he paid on his own, did his own, but then this new one is the library. They were looking to get someone in there, so they look at it really as a win. And I don't think they really even care as much about the taxes because they invested in this resource. They wanted to make sure it was being used.
I mean, at one point, he was looking at the Gazette building.
Which he's looked at, yeah, he looked at a couple of others as well.
The Gazette building is more clear what's in it for us, because if he leaves next year, we end
You've
up with
got
a
you own a
renovated,
piece of, you own the building still, and you've got a renovated building that you own.
kind of like with the Second Ward Community Center, it was clear what was in it for us. We have a renovated building now.
Right.
And
And it's being put to use. I mean,
Right.
there's no,
for the benefit of the community.
right. Yeah.
I mean, this guy's not trying to open a community center. I mean, when we say it's gonna benefit the community, we're going to have to pay to use it. I mean, it's not philanthropy.
No, but his business model is very philanthropic in nature. I mean, it is a very unique model in that I know that on that
Social
wall, it showed like
entrepreneurs.
they'd given like
10,000.
$15,000 or $17,000 in 7 months already. You know, so as part of that, where he says, and what's kind of in it from the community standpoint, as Matt painted the picture to us, is, you know, these larger open areas and the $50 social membership, which allows you to go in and use those facilities after hours. Well, you know, if you wanted to go in and do an oils
class.
class.
I need a place to do oils
You
class.
can go in there and do that. You're a social member, so you can use it after hours. And however you schedule that room to make sure it's available, I don't know. But you can do that, and let's say you have 50 people show up. Well, he asked for, I don't know what it was, $5, at least $5 a person or something like that. So then you go back and you make a contribution, a charitable contribution of $250, or you can make more if you want to. And then that's how he builds that $15,000 or $17,000 they had through 6 months. And he has like 8 different charities. They're local charities, you know, or at least they're locally involved charities. And so, you know, that's kind of where you build this whole community thing with what he's going.
And that's where it differs from just a typical office space where you're renting cubicles.
Yeah.
It's a lot different in that regard.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really the value to the community as I see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, is it worth? Yeah, that's
I
a
would
whole
love-
other story.
I'd love for him to come and pitch us. It's like he wants us
That's fine,
to say
yeah.
yes, but I don't want to drive to Worthington so I can tell this guy yes. Why doesn't he come here and
No,
talk to
we could
me?
do that. He was on vacation.
Yeah, okay.
And I think he would. I
It's
think
still
just-
like you can drive down
yeah,
there just to
just
see
to
it.
see it, but yes. Absolutely. I mean, he's asking for assistance and he can come here and then we'll get him on the agenda and do that. We don't want to, you know, time is, we'd like to get this addressed at probably your next council meeting if we could. And he knows we're interested. I mean, it's a very important corn for us in terms of what it, you know, it's using our marketing brochure. Now it's been vacant for almost 5 years, and some of that is the pricing, Chris. You're right, and you know we don't control that.
What happened to the restaurant? The last one, Brooklyn Heights?
Just went out of business.
They didn't have a very good business model.
And they had a huge space that they couldn't keep.
Yeah, way too much space.
Yeah, it's a big space.
Yes. Our contribution for the infrastructure we reimbursed to Sawmill Delaware Investments was $53,614.
Okay.
Was our contribution to the road and water and sewer, to get innovation court built.
And that benefits more than just EMS. And that
Right.
it benefits anybody else that comes out there in that
So
same
we also
area.
provided and I can't remember what the number was when they were still on Johnson Drive. I don't know if it was an RLF or it was some other
Right. but
assistance.
We do all kind of RLF funds, but that's not city money, that's state money.
So anyway, I wanted to.
Anybody want to go to executive session?
Thanks, and we'll follow up. Probably have him try to come to the next meeting.
Okay. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Move to go into executive session, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 122.22 for the reasons listed.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. We're in executive session.
We can take a
She
vote.
turns the microphones off.
We're gonna do the vote first line, since you're here.
Sure.
Might as well still.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
All right, now we're in.
Well, you're not yet.
What's the score? They're up by 6.